Today I'm going to be doing a demo on how to do a self-binding, which is a binding that comes over from the backing of your quilt. The table runners in the Color of the Month pattern series all use a self-binding because these table runners are double-sided. We use a nice backing fabric, giving you really two runners in one, and it makes a lot of sense to have the backing come over and fold over to be a self-binding on the quilt. And today I'm going to demo how to do that. I'm going to be using a small sample with the same fabrics that we used in the Kennesaw Mountain Table Runner. And the very first step that you're going to do once your runner is quilted is you are going to trim away this excess batting so that it's even with the quilt top. And the best way to do that is to take the backing and fold it under the quilt top. So you've moved that out of the way and you're not going to cut it. And so then you're going to take your scissors and cut your batting to be even with the top. And you're going to do that on all four sides. So now that I'm done with this side, I'll turn it around, fold that batting under, and I try to get it to go as far under as possible. And then again, I'm going to cut this so that it's even with my quilt top. And I prefer to do this with scissors rather than a rotary cutter, because if I didn't have this fabric folded under properly, I could easily cut that fabric away with my rotary cutter. But using scissors allows me to feel the underneath as I'm cutting it. And I've also got my finger here, and I'm feeling my way under that batting, making sure that my backing fabric is out of the way. So here I'm on the last side. I'm folding this under, and I'm cutting away the last length of batting on the quilt top. So now I've got my batting even with my quilt top. The next step is we're going to trim the backing to 3/4 of an inch away from the quilt top. So here I will use my rotary cutter, and I'm going to line it up with 3/4 of an inch and cut away on all four sides. And I'm lining up with the edge of the quilt top there and making sure that I've got it on that 3/4 of an inch line. When you do this with your actual table runner, I recommend that you use a long ruler, a 6 by 24 inch ruler, because your table runner is long. And that way you'll be able to reach more of it with your rotary cutter without having to move that runner quite as much. Alright, now we've got our batting trimmed away and the backing trimmed to an even 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And now we're going to go to the iron and press our self-binding. We're here at my ironing board, and I'm now going to press this self-binding in half all the way around the quilt. And you don't have a lot of fabric to work with here, so you want to make sure that you're keeping your fingers out of the way as you do this, but you just want to fold it in half and press, creating a nice crease in your binding. And this is what you want to see, that it's staying folded over. And what this does is gives you a nice, clean, crisp edge so that you can easily fold it over to the top. Now I'm going to do the top and the bottom first, and then we can do the sides. And I'm just lightly pressing, making sure that the edge of the self-binding is reaching the edge of the batting. And then here I'm going to fold these over and press these as well on the sides. And this is going to help me when I go to the sewing machine. And I'm going to turn this around and press on this side as well. This is a simple step, but it's not one that you want to skip, because if you do, you're going to be fighting this self-binding when you try to turn it over, and it's not going to be even. Now there's no need to pin this, or at least I don't. If you feel more comfortable, you can do that, but I find that it's not necessary. So our next step is to go to the sewing machine and to actually sew our self-binding.